experiencing loss, a lot of people would say, oh gosh, like, don't you just like wish that never happened? And I think most people would say, oh no, like, I am so glad that I had that time that I had. My only wish is that I had more time, but I would never say, I wish that didn't happen to me. I'm so glad. I just wish I had more.
Welcome back to the No Fit Too Small podcast. My name is Jackie Selsky, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Director here at No Fit Too Small. And today I am joined by the beautiful co-founder, executive director of No Fit Too Small, Robin Boudreau.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you again today.
I love sitting on the couch with you. We always have the best conversations, and we've just had some really special guests.
Absolutely.
And today is no different. This episode is a special conversation for Bereaved Parents Month. And so really what we want to focus on is the third pillar of the No Fit Too Small mission, which is building, birthing, and bereavement suites. And so we have an incredibly special guest. I have been so looking forward to connecting with her and meeting her and hearing her story today. We are going to chat with Dr. Lyndsey Day from the group in Davenport, Iowa, who has also been a huge champion for this part of our mission in particular at No Fit Too Small and helped lead out our second building of our birthing and bereavement suite a few years ago. So no further ado, Lyndsey, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited. I figured we could just get started maybe with you sharing a little bit about yourself and maybe how you even got into the medical field and started in the Quad Cities.
You know, we could talk for a whole lot about all of that, but I know we really want to talk about No Fit Too Small and the mission and our bereavement suite. But I'm from the Quad Cities. I grew up here. Love Iowa. I went to St. Ambrose for undergrad. I went to the University of Iowa for medical school. And then I went to Loyola in Chicago for my residency. I always loved obstetrics and gynecology. I just think it is the most amazing, fascinating, brilliant, miraculous thing that anybody can do. And I'm truly so honored to get to do this job. It every day is a privilege to get to take care of people and to walk with women in all of their phases of their journey through life. And, you know, most of the time it is a really incredibly beautiful and happy time. And sometimes, unfortunately, as everyone that's listening knows, sometimes it is devastating. And it is also still so beautiful to get to have this unique privilege to walk with women in loss. And I have been incredibly honored. You know, it's kind of wild how life like works out and unfolds. And as I'm sure we'll talk later, but I can share a little bit about my story. When I first came back to the Quad Cities, shortly after I came back here, one of the first patients that I took care of was a lady who unfortunately presented to the office, and I'm like a brand new doctor. Okay. I've barely seen anything. And she comes to the office. She's 19 weeks pregnant, and she came in because she had some, strange thing going on. It turns out that her water had broken. She was about 3 centimeters dilated, and the baby was already starting to deliver. And I had truly never seen anything like this before. This lady is at my office all by herself. And so obviously she needs to get to the hospital. She didn't have anybody, she's calling her husband. So I actually put her in her car, made sure she got on her way, and working with her really touched my life. And I learned a lot from her. And at that time, we didn't really have anything very established in place for pregnancy loss. We obviously didn't have a suite. We didn't really even have a great bereavement process or resources or anything like that. And she really showed me the deficits in our care. And I walked through her with the loss of her son and afterwards and all of her grief and all of the hard. And I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about what we were doing wrong. And so at that time, I decided to kind of gather a group of people together that were really interested in improving our bereavement care. And so we had this great team and all of these amazing people who are really dedicated to improving our process, which we did a bunch of things leading up to then in about 2018, one of the girls that was on our team, her name's Jess, she had her son, Brayden, was stillborn a few years prior, and she was really invested in our bereavement team, and she wanted to make a birthing and bereavement suite. And honestly, I'd never heard of such a thing before. But I was like, okay, like that sounds great. Like, let's do it. So we had like been having this conversation about this birthing and bereavement suite, and I was about 8 weeks pregnant. And with my 5th baby, okay, not thinking anything is wrong, everything's fine. I'm already invested in this bereavement process. Like, this is already something that's important to me. And I reached out to Robin. We like have this email exchange, and then I fall off the face of the earth because I found out at about 12 weeks that the baby that I was carrying was a little girl. Her name is Ada, had a severe birth defect called limb body wall complex. And basically what that is she didn't have an anterior abdominal wall. So all of her organs were sort of outside of her body and fused to the placenta. So she didn't really have an umbilical cord. And unfortunately, this is like 100% fatal. And this was devastating and not anything that I ever expected that I would be experiencing. And, as I'm sure so many people listening have experienced, just like, what? Well, what do you mean? Like, she's not going to live? Like, I can see her heart beating. She's moving. She's kicking her legs. How can this be?
Right.
And also, like, what? I didn't need to experience this personally. I was already like invested in bereavement care. I didn't need to have this own personal experience where I felt like this loss. I understand. I already get it. But how life goes. And so at the time, we kind of were reeling, and I met with Robin during that time too. And she helped me, of course, like through all of our loss. And Ada died when I was about 20 weeks pregnant with her, which again was just like another blow because they told us she would live until she was born and then die. And so we thought, okay, all right, let's prepare for that. And so we started to prepare for that. And then one day she just died, and that wasn't at all what we were expecting either. And then after Ada, we were obviously devastated, and then we tried to get pregnant again, and it took 6 months, and we had never struggled getting pregnant before. This was like also just totally out of the blue and devastating, as I know everybody who's in that situation just knows, like, oh, that's the worst. And I finally got pregnant again, and then at 8 weeks had a miscarriage, which was then also just horrible. But then after that, we got pregnant right away again. We have a 4-year-old little boy. His name's Will. And then I have an 18-month-old little boy named Colby. And we have our older kids too. So we have 6 kids, and they're wonderful. And so I've been really blessed to be able to experience all of it. I get to see all of the joy and all of the sorrow, and then to be able to have a place to put purpose to the pain that I've experienced, as I know so many people listening can resonate with. It really means a lot. And then to be able to walk with people afterwards and know how they feel and know what to say and know what not to say is also really helpful. But in the process of all of that, so because of Ada, the birthing and bereavement suite became even more important to us. And so that became, like our baby when we
literally
didn't have our baby. Yes. And so then it just became really like, we have to do this now. And so we did. So we worked, so much with Robin and the whole team. And it was truly just an amazing experience. And we have this incredible suite at our hospital. They actually gave us 2 rooms at the hospital that are kind of away from labor. Labor's kind of on this side, and the birthing and bereavement suite's kind of on this side, where there's really nothing else. And so it's kind of isolated. You can't hear anybody else on the unit. You can't see anybody. You're in your own space. We have like a living room area with a kitchenette, and then a really nice bathroom, kind of a waiting area sort of thing, and then the actual labor and delivery room, and it's all connected. So family can be there. There's several couches and sleeping situations for people so that they can stay. And then I think one of the things that I'm the most proud of is the experience that people can have in the suite. So they can stay as long as they want. We do molds, we do pictures, we have, the suite is filled with resources. So there's, Christmas ornaments we make, handprints, all of these memories that we can have for people who are never going to be able to have that experience with their baby again. It is the most peaceful, sacred, beautiful space, and it has really touched innumerable lives. I can't even tell you. I wish nobody ever used this room. And unfortunately, it gets used all the time. And it is such a gift to our community.
So first of all, if I can just back up a little bit, I remember those email exchanges like they were yesterday. Like it still just gives me goosebumps. And I really believe that nothing happens by chance, right? All of this was designed by our angels. And what an incredible gift Ada was, not only to the families in the Quad Cities, right, who experienced the suite, but for all at No Foot Too Small, because you really have been a champion for us. And when you say you set out to build a suite, it wasn't, we're just going to throw together a suite. It was like, we're going to build a suite.
The pinnacle of all suites.
Which is a blessing and a curse, Dr. Day, because now every time I meet with a hospital, I'm like, but this is the vision. This is the Cadillac. And I joke that it's a double wide, right? Because we took those two rooms and we built this beautiful space as a team. And I just couldn't be more proud of that space and wish that that is something we could provide for so many more families across the country.
The impact is, I can't even adequately describe to you what it means to people who are in the suite. It is the most important day for so many people. And to be able to have this sacred space is so important.
I don't know how much you can share, but would you share a story or two from a family who's needed to use this space?
There's one that really sticks in my heart. Well, there's so many actually. And I actually started keeping a list. And I've just written down, I just have this little notebook and I just write down the name of every baby that's delivered in the suite.
Wow.
And I meant to look at it before and to see how many, but it's several pages long. And obviously I don't deliver every single baby. And so I don't know every single baby that's delivered in the suite, but the ones that I have experienced, and I remember their names and I know I see them and I remember them and they really touch my heart. One baby in particular, this mom found out kind of late in her pregnancy because she had been a transfer. She had received prenatal care somewhere else and then she moved here and there was this whole thing. So she didn't actually establish care with us until like 24, 25 weeks. And that was the first time she had an ultrasound. And we found out that her baby had anencephaly and would not survive. And so I got to take care of her for a long time during her pregnancy. And at that point, she was so far along, she really, had no options. And she's here. She was really away from her family. She didn't have a lot of support. And one of the things that she decided to do was she wanted to try to donate her baby's organs because her baby was perfect. She just didn't have her whole brain and she wouldn't be able to survive, but we thought she'd be able to survive long enough that then she could be an organ donor because she had a lot of other healthy organs. And so we prepared for that. We met with all these people from the Iowa Donor Network and we had this whole plan. And so really all we really wanted was for that baby to be born alive. And then unfortunately, she passed away during labor. And then unfortunately, she didn't weigh enough. So there's like requirements for organ donation. And even though she was full term, a lot of a baby's weight is in their head. And so unfortunately, she just didn't weigh enough, even though her body was big enough.
Right.
And so they couldn't take her organs either. And so that was so devastating. we did have the most beautiful time in the suite with this baby. And it still didn't go the way that we wanted it to. And we had a lot of time to prepare. You know, we had weeks and months to prepare for what we wanted it to look like. And, you know, she said to me, she said, I just hope someday that I will know like what her purpose is. And in that moment, that was really when I realized what Ada's purpose was. And so that really meant a lot to me.
It all came full circle.
Yeah, I could go on and on. There's so many stories. There's I just listened to one of the podcasts before that talked about a twin situation where one of the twins lived and one of the twins didn't. We had a situation like that where we had a live, beautiful baby boy and his sweet sister died about 24 weeks. And so we had both babies in the space, and we were able to have a lot of time with both of those babies together. And that was really beautiful. Even early losses, when the babies are really tiny, we have these, like, I know this sounds weird. This would sound weird to anyone who hasn't lost a baby. And I know it doesn't sound weird at all to people who have been in this situation, but we have these little clear boxes that we can put some saline solution in. And these little tiny babies we put in here, and you can see all of their features. You can see their face. You can see their hands. And it's so beautiful. And then people can take pictures and see their baby, where otherwise, you know, in the past, people wouldn't have even seen that child. They would have just, you know, taken it away. And yeah,
that's amazing.
I could go on and on.
Yeah. I'd love to know more about what you think it was within your team that really allowed you to rally together and recognize, you know, what we're saying are some gaps in care, because clearly not everyone is where your team was a few years ago, because otherwise we would have birthing and bereavement suites at every hospital. What do you think it was at the group in particular that really got you guys to a point to start having those conversations?
Well, I truly work with just the most amazing people. I mean, every person that I work with is so compassionate and really wants to take good care of people. And that's true for the nurses at the hospital. There's another group that delivers at our hospital. They are the same. Like, everyone just genuinely really cares. And I do think that's true about most people in medicine and about most people in labor and delivery, especially. I think part of the thing that's hard is just everyone's really busy and everyone's overworked. I think maybe what really helped us is everyone had like a personal connection to it. And whether that was just taking care of people who have lost, everybody has a story. Every doctor has a story, whether they've had an own personal loss or not. They have taken care of people, and those babies never leave our minds. And so everybody has something that is a personal connection to this. And so I think maybe for us, we just had a lot of that personal connection, you know, with me, with Jess and her son, Braden, with Robin and Bo, and just the team really had a lot of experience with loss. And so it meant a little bit more, I guess, to us. But like I said, everybody, whether you've had a loss or not, if you work on labor and delivery, you see this. And so I think we tapped into that and our desire to improve the process, because what we were doing before was not good.
I can feel that.
Yeah.
And it's not even that it was intentionally not good, right?
Right.
It's been interesting to just reflect over the decades, even in how care has changed, how we see more women in medicine and in labor and delivery, and how that in and of itself changes care. So kudos to the team for really leaning in. I would say to any hospital, any OB practice, it takes one champion really to rally a team. And Dr. Day was the champion. Obviously, Jess was terrific too. There was a wonderful team, but in my experience, it will take one champion to say, we are going to drive this.
Well, I just finished reading David Kessler's book. Yeah. And to quote him, it says, grief must be witnessed. And it's in that witnessing, it's in the sharing of our stories. It's in one brave person sharing their angel that helps trickle this effect of normalizing these conversations and holding space for these conversations. And so I think it is so incredible in the work that you do for you to not only advocate for your families that you serve, but to continue to, just as a mom, advocate for Ada. I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I feel bad because we probably have tons of women who are going to be calling the group now asking to be your patient, because that's just a different level of connection, I think, when you allow that vulnerability in a medical situation. I feel like that's just a different experience of care. So I think really the beauty is in the witnessing that your team has done and continues to do.
And, I think after Ada died, there was a long time. I mean, obviously doing this job, carrying my own grief is really hard. And it was really hard for a really long time. But mostly now I feel so fortunate that I have a different perspective on many things. But there was a long time when I thought I only want to practice where I only take care of sad people because it's just different.
Yeah.
And pregnancy after loss, a whole other set of horrible things. It's just so scary. And to be able to sit with somebody in that and understand, like, yeah, I get it. Like, you haven't told anybody you're pregnant yet because you don't know if you're going to get to bring this baby home. Like, yeah, this pregnancy feels like 1,000,000 years long. Yeah, grief is hard and grief is long and there's lots of phases of it. And to be able to walk with someone in their grief is truly a privilege. And to witness the full circle of that journey, like when something good does happen, is extra beautiful.
You probably know this, but just in case anyone following along doesn't know this, this year, Allie Moss, our Director of Family Support, also launched the Pregnancy After Loss groups. So not only do we have the moms groups, the men's social clubs, right? First trimester, second trimester, all of these different groups. So we did add the Pregnancy After Loss because, to your point, it is a very different experience. And in that time, we find our moms especially leaning out of the other groups because they're scared, rightfully so. And Allie would say, you don't want to show up at a group and hear about the many other ways a baby might not make it, right? So I hope that is a gift to our families this year and really find value in meeting with other moms navigating pregnancy after loss.
Yeah, and that's the one group we hold monthly as well, because we recognize, to your point, I mean, that is a different journey and it's ever changing, more quickly changing and more rapidly changing, right? So we do make sure that there's regular connection points for those moms.
Yeah, there's so much. There's grief, there's guilt, there's worry, there's joy, all of the things. Yeah.
What are some personal, I guess, self-care practices, for lack of a better way to describe that? Or how have you navigated balancing your own grief with, I'm sure, the extreme weight of the grief that you are feeling from your families? I think many of our listeners, our community, we're all walking alongside each other in grief, and we're all having to learn from each other how to do that, right? Maybe they're not a provider, but they are walking alongside others, maybe with similar stories and maybe with completely different stories. And so we're always constantly having to find that balance of how do we take care of ourselves while we're taking care of each other. So I'm just curious what advice you would give to other parents, or maybe what some lessons that you've learned along the way.
I think, and what I tell my patients a lot of times is there's a doctor day answer and there's a Lyndsey day answer, and sometimes they're different. And the doctor day answer, I would say, you gotta give yourself grace. You gotta give yourself grace, and it's okay to not feel super joyful all of the time. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel whatever feelings you're feeling. If you're a person that's walking with someone through grief, it's okay to just say, I'm so sorry. It's okay to say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. You don't have to say anything. You can be present and you can witness. But I think a lot of times when people are walking with people in their grief, it's scary. You don't know what to do. You don't want to do the wrong thing. And then sometimes in doing the wrong thing, trying to avoid doing the wrong thing, you like do the wrong thing. Just show up for that person. And it's okay to say, I don't know what to do, but I'm here for you. Yeah. I think one other thing, advice for people who are walking with people in grief, something that we, in our society, we say it all the time, like, let me know if you need something. Let me know. Somebody who just lost their baby isn't going to let you know a thing. They don't even know. So don't ask. Don't say, like, let me know if you need me, or like, let me know if I can bring you a meal. Just bring them a meal. Right. Just show up. Like, clean their house, do their thing. They're never going to ask you to do their laundry for their other kids because they can't even get out of bed. So just like coming over and do that. Okay. You don't need to put the burden of the ask on the person who's grieving. And then I think, for people who are grieving, you just have to go through it. And I say that all the time too. Like, the only way through it is through it.
And that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm. And so you just got to go through it, but you got to be gentle with yourself. There's no timeline. I think there's a lot of shoulds. I should do this. I should do that. I should feel this way. There is no should. There's no should. There's no way. But I do think finding a purpose for your pain, at least for me, that has been really helpful. So having a focus, something I can do instead of, or in honor of, or in memory of, really helps. And for me, and like for my family, what we do is we stock the suite. So, now we have the suite, we did this thing, it's so great, but it needs restocked. Like, we run out of supplies. We need more books. We need more, paint. And so, every 6 months or so, we take an inventory. I order all the things. It comes to my house, and then we pack it all up, and we all head up there, and we unpack, and we sort, and we clean, and we organize. And that's something that we get to do together, that we'll always get to do. And then knowing that helps somebody else. I think giving purpose to your pain, if that alleviates somebody else's suffering in any small amount of way, that at least has been really helpful for me.
I think that's beautiful.
Purpose in the pain. I'm with you all day long on that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going back a little bit, but I have a question for both of you.
Oh,
I'd love to hear more about the conversations you had as you were planning the suite. I think what makes that space so special is the little details. And this is something we talk a lot about at No Foot Too Small, is that's truly what matters in every experience we offer our families. So you shared so many of them, but I'd love to just hear more about how you collectively came to decide what needed to be in that space, and walk us through that process.
Lyndsey, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think it was really great. We had such a great team that all had different perspectives. And I think that is important. If anybody is thinking about doing this at their hospital, you really need to get perspectives from lots of people, because everybody only knows their own little spot. And so it was helpful because we had nurses on our team, like, oh, hey, don't forget, we need gloves in the bathroom. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I never would have thought about that. We need a spot to put this medical thing that we need. Oh, okay. Yeah. We really wanted a really nice bathroom, a really nice tub, these types of things. One of the things I think that was the most important to me was that there was a separate place for people to hang out, because typically before, or in lots of places that don't have a suite, the people are waiting in the waiting room, or they're going to get coffee at the same coffee pot as the dad whose baby was just born alive in this room. They meet people here, and then they hear the other people's joy, and here they are suffering this incredible loss. And this person standing right next to them filling up their coffee cup is like, oh my gosh, my son was just born. And so I really wanted them to never have to deal with that. And so for me, the thing that was really important was this like living room, waiting room, kitchenette situation. We bring in food. So when somebody's in that suite, we bring in actual meals for them. And there's a fridge and a microwave and there's a coffee maker and tea. So they don't really ever have to leave. Because I think another thing when people experience loss that, like the re-entry into the world is really hard. And so if you can just delay that re-entry into the world a little bit, stay in your safe space as much as you can, that's really helpful. So that was sort of the thing that was important to me. And I'll let Robin say.
I mean, I echo that. I think having a group of people who all had different experiences, so we could come to the table and say, this piece is most important to me. Well, this would have been really great in my experience. And just creating kind of that dream list of all of the amenities that we would like in the room was really helpful. I think everybody agreed that we wanted a space that you never had to leave, right? You didn't have to walk down the hallway. You didn't have to pass the balloons and the flowers and all of the things for the other families. So yes, creating that priority list. And, as recently as a couple of weeks ago when I hosted our annual meeting with all of our ambassadors, the space came up again and somebody in the room said, what was most important to me was that the sink where we could wash the baby, right? We could give the baby a bath and it wasn't in a plastic tub. And so you'd be surprised. Every family, has this wish list or gosh, if I could have just had that, my experience would have been this much better. And so I think in this Genesis space, we really did spend a lot of time making sure we had as many of those perfect details as we could. I brag about that collection of books that you put together, Lyndsey, all the time with every hospital I meet with. It may seem little or insignificant to someone who hasn't lost a baby, but when you're in that space and you're just grasping for any hope, any comfort, those details matter, right? The oils that provide the kind of like that spa-like scent in the room, having the bed where you can sleep together. How special
the
is
Murphy
that?
bed. Yes.
And we recognize that all requires space and additional fundraising and all of the things, but having the big windows, if that's the only space that you're ever going to take photos with that baby, how important is that? As a photographer, I knew that coming in. I'm sure Lyndsey and I could laugh all day about the fight I put up for the fireplace. But if that is the only space you're going to be, whether or not it actually puts out heat, provide something that feels less sterile, more warm and comforting was important too. So I don't know. There were a lot of roundtable discussions.
There was a lot. And we were really fortunate. The hospital was really accommodating.
Oh, they were great.
They gave us a lot of space. They gave us a lot of like creative freedom to really run with us, which was really good. The windows. Okay. So outside of the windows, and this is another thing, I think, things are always growing and changing and there's always something else to do. Yep. The windows are wonderful. Outside of the windows is so ugly. The roof. It's like this roof with this like piping and like this ductwork, and it's terrible. So yeah, if you like don't get too close to the windows, it like looks really good.
The light is fantastic.
So my next project was getting a garden out there on the roof. And it's still work in progress. It started. It's not exactly the way that I'd like it to be just yet. We need more plants out there, but there's a beginning of a garden, which has an opportunity to grow. And, my dream would be that then people can buy a little patch in honor of their baby, and then eventually the space will be this beautiful garden out that window. So, more to come on that, but.
Well, it'll be beautiful, but it'll also be meaningful.
Yeah.
Right?
So meaningful.
Yes.
Oh, I can't imagine as a family and they're knowing the love of other families are just literally looking right at you. That would be life-changing, I imagine.
So this might make you feel a little bit better. Just a couple of weeks ago, I heard a story about a hospital that put together like a hospice bereavement suite. They thought they had the perfect space. They did all the work, put it together, and then all of a sudden one day looked out the window and realized the window looked at the cemetery.
Yeah.
In that moment, in that grief, probably the last place you want to look out at is the cemetery. And of course, they felt awful about that. So you're dealing with an ugly rooftop that we can spruce up is way better than looking at the cemetery.
Yeah, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
What I love about that story, though, is, we feel here like our mission is to change conversations really just kind of in our little world, right? But think of the construction managers' hearts that have been changed forever from that experience, and the people that designed that building, and just folks from completely unrelated industries who are walking about the earth with a different type of compassion now because of what they learned through that experience. And so that ripple effect it's unfortunate that happened, but the ripple effect of maybe awareness, I think, is really special.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah. And I think, everybody whose life is touched by the suite, the aunt that comes in, anybody, like you said, it's far reaching.
Obviously, our team was involved in helping with this entire project, but they still talk about how special it was, how meaningful, how touching it was to be able to come into the space there at Genesis and see it for the first time themselves. Because for so much of that time, it was me, right? I was the one visiting with you and spending the time in the hospital. So when they had the opportunity to tour the space, Jackie, you still have not had that opportunity.
I know. Well, and to your point, Dr. Day, I have stopped by a few times to see it, and every time it has been in use. And so you're absolutely right that space is so needed, and it's full. So, I'm still going to keep showing up, and one day I will get to be in there. But that also makes my heart full, knowing that I'm part of this group that helped create something that our families really, really need. So it's an important reminder, I think, every time I show up and get turned away, that we did something meaningful there.
Well, and I love too, it pushes everybody to always kind of try to be better. Just yesterday, one of the midwives sent me an email and she said, "Hey, I found this product that helps with breast engorgement pain after, delivery, but I really want to get this product in the suite because I think it would be really helpful for people who are experiencing that." And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, like, let's get that. And how awesome that she was thinking about that.
Right.
We're always trying to do something better. What can we do better for the people that are experiencing this horrible devastation? So both in our office, how can we make this process less painful? How can we make this, as easy as possible? And what can we have for them available at the hospital to lighten their load in any way? There's always room for improvement. And I think having the suite always pushes us even more to improve.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's important to emphasize that this is always going to be an evolution, right? As it's been interesting sitting in this chair, even over the few months we've interviewed different families and parents, just to see generational differences in what they think is meaningful and important. And that's going to continue to look different throughout the years. There's never going to be one space that solves it forever. And so I think your mindset about that is just because we built it, we're not done, is really important. And a good reminder for all of us here on the team too, that it's not a check off the list project. It's just the beginning, really, in continuing that evolution of care.
Absolutely. Well, I hope, Lyndsey, that the work No Foot Too Small does for your patients and families when they leave the hospital is serving them in the ways that we hope we've designed the programs to serve them. But we're always here waiting for feedback, constructive criticism, all of the things so that we can continue evolving, just like we did with the pregnancy after loss groups, to ensure that once that patient leaves the hospital, they're not isolated, they're not alone, that they're still receiving the community and care and celebration that they deserve.
I think the support groups are so important for that. And I always tell people, you can go, especially the virtual ones, you can just sit there. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
you can just exist there or you can participate. But I think that takes a lot of pressure off. For a lot of people who are just new in their grief, it's hard to go somewhere. It's hard to like show up. And
Right.
there's so many worries and things, that you go through your mind. And then a lot of people just decide like, oh, okay, I'm not going to go. But a virtual thing where you can even, you can just not even say anything. You can just sit there, takes a lot of the pressure off. And so I love that. And I tell a lot of people that, and I think that's really helpful for people to have that option. I think the support groups are so good.
Yeah. And I love reminding people that they're peer led, right? It's just a group of other moms or just a group of other dads. And I think that takes some pressure off of it too, because it immediately feels different. If you've ever been to another type of support group, it just feels like a family and group of friends from the start. So I hope.
I sure hope so.
I hope people feel that.
Yeah.
I
see a lot of people that find a lot of support in those groups.
Good. I hope so.
Yeah, it's good to hear. We'll pass that on to Allie and her team. They're the champions for that.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Day, I feel so honored that you spent so much time with us this morning and really helped bring life to a really important part of the No Foot Too Small mission. Thank you for everything you have done and continue to do. I would love to ask you, this is my favorite question to ask our guests, if you're comfortable, if you could say something to Ada and even your other angel today, what would you say?
Oh gosh. I would just say that I love you and I'm so glad you came.
See, I cry and I'm not even the one answering the question.
It's the most emotional part of the talk every time. But
you know what, though? That was exactly the way I answered it when Jackie asked me in the first episode.
Yeah, I think you said it just, I love you, buddy.
Yep, I love you, buddy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's so much gratitude, I think, from all of us, for our own angels, but for each other's. I mean, that's why we're all together. It's why this is happening right now, so.
It is. See, here we go.
I think being in experiencing loss, a lot of people would say, oh gosh, like, don't you just like wish that never happened? And I think most people would say, oh no, like I am so glad that I had that time that I had. My only wish is that I had more time, but I would never say, I wish that didn't happen to me. I'm so glad. I just wish I had more.
It's a beautiful perspective.
And it does take time and reflection to get there, no doubt. But in that process is when the silver linings present themselves, the lessons present themselves. And with that, I think with every lesson, with every silver lining, the gratitude grows. So yeah, Bo was nothing but a gift. Ada was nothing but a gift. May not have felt that way at the time. But absolutely.
Well, and you are such a gift to us. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you. And I'm so excited to continue this conversation. And I think I said earlier, we could have a few different interviews with you on lots of different topics. So
there is one more thing I'd like to say.
Okay.
Can we also just say thank you to Kyle? I don't want to forget Kyle in this conversation. He walked alongside us that entire journey. He championed for No Foot Too Small in a lot of ways as well. So to Ada's dad, thank you to him as well.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. It's important for dads too.
Absolutely.
Well, he can be on next time. We'll make him sit down for the questions next time. But
perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us
thanks
today.
You guys. It was so good to be here. I really appreciate you and everything that you guys do. I love that No Foot Too Small is always growing and always trying to expand the conversation and expand the resources. It's so greatly needed and really, really impactful.
We won't stop if you don't stop.
Oh, girl, I have so many more ideas.
Oh, good. I can't wait.
Stay tuned for part 2 of this episode for sure.
Next time, I just asked that she's got to sit on the couch next time.
Yeah. I'll be there.
Great.
Well, thank you both so much. And thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the No Foot Too Small podcast. If you are a family experiencing pregnancy or infant loss, we would love to connect with you. We hope you'll check out our website at nofittoosmall.org and connect with us through there. If you're interested in supporting our mission, there's also a donate button at the top, or you can connect with us about sponsorship and partnership opportunities as well. We'll include all of this information in the show notes, and we'll catch you at the next episode.